Okay, I'm going to bring out some misconceptions that people have. One of the things you hear a lot of these fraudsters say to the police is, "You swore an oath to uphold and protect the Constitution of the United States." Question: how many policemen do you know that have actually read the Constitution of the United States? Yeah. Well, okay, two. Okay, so at least I can say I met both of them. Yeah, they do take a superficial oath to the protection of the United States Constitution, but that is a very superficial oath at best. And quite frankly, police don't even bother reading it, okay? Even their supervisors don't bother reading it. It's not something they do, okay? But anyway, you hear about, this is my right, I got my rights, we got the Constitution. People really don't know what it entails. But let's look at this frauditor case again.
Punishable under the federal criminal statutes. While Poster 7 is likely the applicable criminal law if the post office is a federal enclave, just like the state law, the federal law does not include a formal written notice requirement. Therefore, under either state or federal law, Mr. Gutterman did not need to receive a formal written notice to commit trespass.
Give us your name and date of birth. That's how
You don't need my name and date of birth for a trespass. No, you don't. You guys don't know the law.
Okay.
Okay, you really don't. I'm sorry. Well, you just told me I couldn't film in there, and I can.
That's your opinion.
Well, I'm going to go back in.
No, you're not.
No, you're not, dude.
Well, then trespass me.
You are trespassed.
That's not a trespass.
After a lengthy exchange between Mr. Gutterman and the Silverthorne officers, everyone left the scene without further incident. Mr. Gutterman went on to file a lawsuit against the town of Silverthorne, and according to the Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition, the case was settled for $9,500 a few months later. Overall, the Silverthorne officers get a B, because although the officers appear to be unfamiliar with Poster 7 and the legality of filming inside a post office, they remained calm and professional throughout the encounter, appeared to consult with their superiors before making any concrete decisions, and ultimately allowed Mr. Gutterman to go free without any charges. It is clear that the Silverthorne officers were operating outside the scope of their knowledge of the law, but it is likely that a court would have favored their defense if the town had taken this case to trial. This interaction highlights a perpetual misconception that tends to circulate throughout the auditing community, which is the idea that all government-owned property is subject to First Amendment protections. The Supreme Court has stated on numerous occasions that the government has the right to regulate the use of its property and ensure that the property is dedicated to its intended use. Whenever a government entity is sued, such as the town of Silverthorne, they must evaluate whether mounting a legitimate defense in the courtroom would be more cost-effective than settling the suit outright, and it is likely that the representatives of Silverthorne offered to settle the case to avoid wasting taxpayer dollars in a lengthy court battle, regardless of whether they would have won the case or not. As mentioned before, there is a strong possibility that the town of Silverthorne could have won this case, but it simply was not worth the time and expended resources to partake in what was likely viewed as a frivolous lawsuit. Mr. Gutterman gets a C-, because although he maintained a calm and professional demeanor throughout the interaction, he failed to acknowledge the full context of the Poster 7 clause he was referring to, demonstrated a fundamental misunderstanding of the limitations of free speech, and demanded a written trespass notice that he was not entitled to. As mentioned on the previous episode of ATA, there is a lot to be said about the Supreme Court's interpretation of the First Amendment, and oftentimes the court's rulings appear to be in direct conflict with a layman understanding of free expression. Nonetheless, viewing this interaction through the lens of the courts indicates that Mr. Gutterman's conduct here is likely not protected under the First Amendment. And although I personally believe that Mr. Gutterman is a valuable asset to the auditing community, it is clear that the courts would likely disagree with his interpretation of free speech. At the end of the day, the mission of...
Okay, that's this gutter trash guy. And basically he got a settlement, and the reason being is because... well, from what I understand, they just didn't feel like going to court with it. It just wasn't worth the trouble or the money or the time. Okay? And we got some more stuff here.
Okay, what are you doing?
So what we're doing is we are out here exercising our rights, standing up for your rights.
Okay, that is a bunch of bullshit. First of all, he's not doing any of that. And how can we explain our rights? And when everybody talks about their rights and how they have rights and stuff like that, I used to be a policeman or a sheriff's deputy. And this stuff about the Constitution and everything, from a law enforcement person's point of view, I'd say that the policeman's point of view on rights is a little different than Jason's.
If you think you do have rights, one last assignment for you. Next time you're at the computer, get on the internet, go to Wikipedia. When you get to Wikipedia, in the search field for Wikipedia, I want you to type in Japanese Americans 1942, and you'll find out all about your precious fucking rights, okay? All right. You know about it. You know about it. Yeah. In 1942, there were 110,000 Japanese American citizens and good standing, law-abiding people who were thrown into internment camps simply because their parents were born in the wrong country. That's all they did wrong. They had no right to a lawyer, no right to a fair trial, no right to a jury of their peers, no right to due process of any kind. The only right they had, right this way, into the internment camps. Just when these American citizens needed their rights the most, their government took them away. And rights aren't rights if someone can take them away. They're privileges. That's all we've ever had in this country is a bill of temporary privileges. And if you read the news even badly, you know that every year the list gets shorter and shorter and shorter. You see how it's doing?
Okay, and that's basically the way it is. I mean, police don't really worry about people's rights, okay? I mean, they worry about enforcing the law, but when we enforce the law, we don't think about the rights of the people. We think about whether or not they're obeying the law or not. And yeah, while police do swear the allegiance to support and defend the Constitution, it's a document that they don't read. Truth be told, well, I think people are inflating this bit about the Constitution and how much people value it. Now, one thing about Jason Gutter Trash, he says he's traveled 51,000 miles in the last 2 years. I will challenge him to go to Rockdale County, Georgia, Henry County, Georgia, Clayton County, Georgia, and shoot off his mouth the way he usually does. Okay? Apparently, he has been watching my videos. I wish I could do a good job like he does, though. He does a very good job posting videos. Mine are pretty sloppy, but I'm getting some nice comments from him. Actually, a lot of, wow, I'm getting a lot more comments than I thought. But anyway, just like to say that, yeah, I would challenge Gutter Trash to go to Georgia, some of those counties that I mentioned, and yeah, he can tell them all about his precious rights because, newsflash, guys, these Leos, when it comes to rights and stuff like that, they're on a different wavelength.